Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of, was life really better in the old days? The thing is that if you really think about the way that we live in our modern day society, well, we can honestly say that we live much better now than we have ever lived on this earth. Nobody had cars before. Nobody had planes before. They didn't have running water, an abundance of food, and all these things available to them in stores simply in the blink of an eye. Like nowadays we're so good with all of these things that are just available to us that we don't even need to go outside because we have things like the internet where we can order stuff online and it just literally comes to our door. And we also live in a sort of kind of like golden era of time and space in a way, because the reason I'm saying that is that yes, they're talking about global warming and all these things, but at the same time Earth has never had it as good. There's fluctuations in weather and stuff like that. There are natural disasters, but comparatively, if you really compare it to other eras of time on this earth, well, we are actually doing extremely well. People are living longer. There's less illnesses. There's a lot more science that is breaking through on a lot of breakthroughs in the way, and they are making our life much easier, and our life is literally becoming easier and easier and easier. And even though we're complaining about the fact that we might be working hours on hours of work and 5 days of work weeks and all that stuff, and now they're talking about maybe some countries going to 4 days a week and stuff like that. Well, you got to think about it this way. Before, maybe 100 years ago, there were no unions. So usually the trend was to work 70, 80 hours a week. And yeah, you could build your own house, but at the same time, people were starving. People were getting sick. People were dying really young. Now, on average, people will work 40 hours a week, 5-day work week, and they get paid vacations sometimes, and they get bonuses and retirement plans and all these things. So, yeah, it sucks sometimes the way that life is, because we'd like everything to be put on a golden platter. But at the same time, we're living in such an era of abundance, but because we weren't born in those times when things weren't that good, we don't tend to realize it, and we just take it for granted that everybody can have a car and all these things. Even kings and queens, and however rich you were, you wouldn't be able to have these things in the past. And again, because of science and medicine in those days, people just died young. So it's really hard to compare ourselves to the old days, because when you look at paintings, when you look at pictures, you see all that level of detail, and we tend to romanticize the way that things were done. Yeah, things were, for example, clothes-wise, people would get their clothes sewn, and they would be perfect. They would fit their body well. They were done with gusto, They were done well. But the thing is that at the same time, they only owned a couple of articles of clothing at most. So, yeah, it better fit them, because it's just scarce. You can't just go to a store and just buy a shirt. You have to get it tailored. It has to be made to you. And even if you had all the money, it still take time. You can't just go pick it up. And at the same time, it just is more scarce. Books were written by hand until they started printing them, not even that long ago. So everything that we take as granted nowadays in our society, we got to understand that the old days was harsh. It was the jungle. And even though we don't have it perfect now, we seem to be going towards, or at least leaning towards a sort of era where things are going to get better and better as long as we don't mess it up as humans and destroy ourselves with some sort of war, or it doesn't take much at the same time. That's why it's so fragile. And I think that's more what we resent, and we say that the old days are better, is because now at the press of a button you could destroy thousands of lives, and that's where it gets kind of scary. So it's more fear than anything else that we have as human beings, because we're mortal, and some people don't want to acknowledge that, and some people don't like to talk about death. Most people don't, but at the same time it's something that's present everywhere, and it's something that's common with every single person on earth. But that being said, saying that the old days were better, hey, maybe we had less genetically modified foods and stuff like that, but at the same time we had people dying so young. Now the chances of people dying at 35 are much smaller than they were in the old times. Now a lot of people can make it in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and they can actually have some sort of health care, and they can actually, we have a problem, another problem in some ways, the reverse. In place of having scarceness in food, we have a society that's basically has too much food, and then we have problems such as obesity, and people are obese because they're just eating too much. So that's also kind of silly. So I think the thing is that you got to understand is the old times are not better than now. Now we're actually having it really pretty darn good, and we're living like all the people, all the generations of our past would have dreamt to have lived in. Even the poor people in Western society are living better than 90% of people in the past, just because they have access to science, access to an abundance of food, even TV, internet, and all that knowledge. They're able to read, learn math, all these things. And yeah, not everybody can have the luxury car, but you got to think that 100 years from today, in the past, if you go back to like the early 1900s, well, nobody had a car, literally. So even if you have the crappiest of cars, you still have a more powerful horse than the people had or could have ever imagined to have 100 years ago. So that's it. That's all I have to say on the subject. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.